Welcome to the People Teaching People podcast. Joining me on the podcast is Heather Setka. I connected with Heather through my role at SAIT, the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, as an academic engagement facilitator with the ARIS Hub. ARIS stands for Applied Research and Innovation Services. At the time, she was teaching a research methodology course for the School of Business at SAIT and was looking for an ARIS Hub researcher to speak to her students about applied research. Heather Setka is now an academic chair of electrical trades in the MacPhail School of Energy at SAIT. She is a Master's of Arts in Workplace Behavior and has been studying women's experiences in male-dominated workplaces for close to a decade. I have had the privilege of hearing Heather speak at the SAIT Reimagining Learning Transforming Teaching Showcase. Her presentation was called In a Galaxy Far, Far Away, Using Pop Culture Metaphors like Star Wars in Research, Teaching, and Life. I have also been inspired as I followed Heather's journey last year in February with the Light Up the World project in Peru with a group of instructors and students from SAIT and NAIT, the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology. Light Up the World is a Canadian nonprofit organization focused on the principle that access to energy changes lives and that provides underserved off-grid communities with life-changing solar technologies. Thank you so much for joining me today, Heather.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So, where I would love to start is to learn more about you and your story and your career pathway. And I'm wondering if you could share some of how some of your earlier experiences led you to where you are and what you do today.
That's funny because my career path is pretty windy. It's a winding river, it's a winding road, but I'm kind of proud of that. My earliest experiences were in journalism. My very first professional job, I had my first job when I was in high school in a grocery store in Okotoks, working for a man named Don Gilbert. I loved that first job. So that was my first job, but my first real professional experience was as a journalist. I worked as a small town reporter in Vulcan, Alberta, just south of Calgary, about 45 minutes south of Calgary, in a small town paper as a junior reporter and photographer. And what's so funny about that job is my job today, I feel, is very similar to that job, even though my job today is as the electrical trades academic chair, one of three electrical trades academic chairs at SAIT, which sounds funny, like what do those two things have in common? But when you're a journalist, especially in a small town paper, you have to do everything, right? You have to take all the photos, you have to write all the stories, you have to make all the contacts. And journalism, particularly small town journalism or small town reporting, requires a lot of problem solving because there's one person doing everything. I had an editor, but I was really on my own for coverage and for filling, sometimes 20 pages of a newspaper. At the time, we were still printing newspapers. This was about 20 years ago now, 25 years ago now, actually. It's closer to 25 years ago now that I was doing this. It's actually 25 years this year that I was doing that. But you have to solve so many problems, right? Like you're trying to figure out what the story is. You go to a lot of meetings, you meet a lot of people, you have a lot of conversations, and you get a lot of information from them. And that's what I'm doing now. Like my role, and what's also funny is we put out a bulletin every week on SharePoint as part of our portfolio. Electrical Trades is the largest portfolio on SAIT campus, and we have the most instructors, and communicating with those instructors requires like a weekly bulletin, and it's like my own little small town paper. I take a ridiculous amount of pleasure and joy in this weekly SharePoint bulletin because it just reminds me so much of small town reporting. So yeah, small town reporting and reporting in general. Because after that, I went to journalism school. I got a journalism degree at the University of Regina, and I worked for CBC for a while. Reporting in general just requires like a lot of conversations, a lot of problem solving, a lot of connecting people, a lot of gathering information. It requires technical work, like you're using sound platforms or software to mix your sound, edit your sound. You're logging stories in the system. So my job today is so much like journalism, and it just cracks me up because I never would have thought in a million years that that would be true. We're also collaborating a lot with people in journalism, similar to this job. Have to do a lot of collaboration to get things done. So my early experiences are actually closest to the experiences that I'm having today in my career. And my point from small town newspaper reporter to academic chair of electrical trades is very windy. Like that's not a direct line, clearly. There's a lot that happens in between there. But my job today is so much like my first job that I feel really good in this job for that reason. And I feel like there were seeds planted in that early career as a small town journalist and a journalist in general that kind of made me able to do just about anything and to find, because journalism is just problem solving like all the time. If you're not in the industry of journalism, you see the final product, which is a story online or in print or on the radio, you hear it, or on television or on YouTube, you watch it. But as a consumer of that journalism, you have no idea what the process is like to get to that final end of seeking and searching truth. There's lots of investigation involved in journalism. I feel like there's lots of investigation involved in being an academic chair at SAIT because, you get problems coming to you or situations coming to you, and you have to figure out what the truth is of those situations to help guide people. So I feel like my early seeds planted as a journalist and a journalism student in school are like blossoming right now. It's very funny. It cracks me up a little bit.
It is so funny to look back and see how our earlier experiences really shape
Mhm.
and influence our current experiences. Like, I probably, as a young journalist, you wouldn't have guessed that you would be doing what you are doing today.
No, never.
Yet, now looking back, you can see how those experiences really shape the person you are and really have strengthened your skill set and really supported the important work that you're doing now. So that is such an interesting connection to make.
And it took me a couple of months to make it because, yeah, like I think the leap from journalism into communications instructor, which is what I did before this, was not, it's not as big of a stretch. But the stretch from communications instructor to academic chair of electrical trades is pretty far. And it's only because of my network that I was able to make that happen. And my relationships at this institution and my ability to work with just about anyone in any capacity. But a couple months in, I was like, wait a minute, this is just like journalism. Like it's communicating all day long. Like I'm a little bit tied to my email, which I actually don't mind. I like monitoring an email to see what's going on and returning emails. It's kind of like a badge of honor. Like I return emails really quickly and I don't mind that. I kind of like it. I like the written word. So receiving communication from people in that form is actually works really well for me. So yeah, my sisters are both really career minded women and they're still in their 40s. My older sister's almost 50 now, but we've been talking about this recently, how what we're doing now, like you can just, it's like everything you've accumulated over those 25 years is starting to come to fruition and you're kind of fearless. You'll kind of do anything. You'll be like, oh yeah, I'll be the academic chair of electrical trades. I don't know anything about electrical trades, but yeah, can I try that please? And so that's kind of a fun place to be.
That is an exciting place to be. And I do want to kind of just pause for a moment because people listening might not know, especially those outside of the state world or even academic world, like what does it mean to be an academic chair?
Yeah.
What is that exactly?
It's also a very funny question. I call it everything everywhere all at once. And that's kind of the reputation of the job at SAIT. I think being an academic chair, it's like being a manager of a particular portfolio, academic portfolio. But the way it works at SAIT, and I don't know about other institutions, is you're really doing kind of everything. You are managing faculty. So if you want to compare it to something, if you're not familiar with the way education works, it would be like the principal of the school, except you're like the principal of that particular portfolio, academic portfolio. But at SAIT, it truly means everything everywhere all at once. So I might be like managing faculty in their roles, helping them with their goals, supporting them with their goals, helping them solve their problems. I might be having conversations with students about their challenges or what they see their needs might be and connecting them with other support services. But I'm also managing a budget. I'm also scheduling. I have two co-chairs, which is wonderful. I really enjoy working with them. There's three of us because the portfolio is so big. There's three of us and we work together and we have complementary skills. But truly, this role as it is at SAIT today is everything, everywhere, all at once.
That's quite the description.
That's what I've been calling it. People like that.
I
Everyone who does
do.
the role or knows about the role, they're
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's pretty
I
accurate.
feel that. I get that. Yeah, you're speaking my language. So, what do you think about teams and what they gain when women are in leadership roles, such as
Oh,
yourself?
yeah, this is my gem. So I've been studying women in all male classrooms for about 8 years now, actually 10. I did a master's degree about 10 years ago. I finished it in leadership at Athabasca University in Alberta. It's an online university for people who might not know what that is. I did a master's degree in leadership, and at the end of my program, I had a big project that I needed to launch or pitch. And at the time, I had just started teaching at SAIT and I was teaching comms courses, but I was teaching comms courses to technical fields where the fields were predominantly made up of men. So, one of my first classes as an instructor at SAIT, as a comm instructor, was in a power engineering class, and it was a really bad experience. I was a green instructor, and there was a lot of things I didn't know and didn't anticipate. And I surely did not anticipate the energy in an all male classroom in a technical field and what that would be like. So, at the same time I was finishing up my master's, I also launched some research about women teaching all male classrooms. And it kind of led me on a very long journey to today, to leading like a predominantly male team. So, we do have one of the biggest teams on campus. Think we're at close to 60 instructors, and about six of them are women. So about 10% of our faculty are women, and the rest are men. So I've kind of graduated or grown up from leading all male classrooms to leading up a predominantly male team. I have two, as I said, two co-chairs, and they're men. So we work together. So I wouldn't say like I'm a total leader of an all male team, but I do see a profound benefit from having a woman as part of that team that leads. I think there are all kinds of women and they have all kinds of qualities. But let's say typically women might have a more empathetic style. It's called feminine leadership. And I've done a little bit of research on, there's so much to tell you about my research, but it did evolve into some scholarly activity here at SAIT. And I conducted 14 interviews and focus groups with women who teach all male classrooms and got their perspective on it. So I'm not just talking from my experience, I'm talking from some qualitative data and then some secondary sources, many secondary sources, hundreds of secondary sources to support the data that I collected. So I had many findings, and it would take me a long time to share them all of them with you. But I will say that one thing that emerged was this idea of feminine leadership and what that means. And if you look up the definition, there's lots of definitions that you can figure out what feminine leadership means. But one of the key features of feminine leadership is an empathetic leadership style. And it doesn't mean you need to be a woman to be a feminine leader and to have that feminine empathetic leadership style, but it helps. It helps a lot. So I think groups of men benefit from a feminine or empathetic leadership style because they're human beings too, and they want empathy too, and they benefit from empathy as well as women. So I think also I have just been really thinking about the fact that I think women can inspire men to do things that other men cannot inspire them to do, like be empathetic, perhaps. I'm not saying that it can't be done. It just feels like, I guess, more profound when that's there. So, I've been really working on relationships with this new faculty. I came out of nowhere for them. They didn't know me at all when I came into the role, and the last 8 months I've really been building relationships with them and building trust. And that only happens through, presence and conversation and truly through empathy. So I think women leading in a group dominated by men just means that there can be more understanding potentially, and possibly even more. This was a pretty great cohesive group when I came here, so I'm not saying I changed anything, but you can definitely foster more cohesion and collaboration. I saw this clip the other day on YouTube, and a man was talking. He's like a big exec, and he was talking about how he doesn't hire men anymore.
Interesting.
He said men are me, me, me. And I know that's not true of all men, but he said men think me, 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 and women think we, we. And I
Mm.
really like the we aspect that I can bring to a team like this.
Hmm. Yeah, that collaboration, that we sense of we, those relationships, that empathy is so important and so powerful actually in bringing about a lot of positive action and connections within an organization. Now, last year, speaking of cool experiences and opportunities that you've had with SAIT, and I love how you sort of described it as like appearing within your role and within your team, but really also like how those relationships and connections sort of led you to that opportunity. But you had a very interesting opportunity where you got to travel to Peru with
Yeah.
the Light Up the World project. So
Mhm.
you need to tell me and everyone who's listening, what is this initiative all about? And what was that experience like for you and the group that you traveled with?
Yeah, it was a very profound experience. I'll try to talk about it without getting emotional. I think I'll be okay, but it was really profound. Light Up the World is a fabulous, fantastic organization that was actually founded in Calgary. And what they do is they bring last mile electrification to rural communities in Peru that would otherwise not have that opportunity. They've also added another layer now in adding internet as part of their services that they bring. Yeah, they bring like a solar PV system to rural communities and volunteers who go on the trip. And I was one of them last year in a group of 11, myself, another leader, kind of a junior leader, and then a group of students. You wire classrooms in schools and you hook it up to their solar power system, and you turn on the lights for people who wouldn't have electricity otherwise. Like, if you think last mile, it is so far. It takes us 4 days. It took us 4 days to get there from Calgary. You got to go on You got to fly to Lima, and then you got to fly to Arequipa, which is another city in Peru. And then it's a big bus to a smaller city, town really, Cotahuasi, and then a bus or a van up into the back of the Andes. It takes 4 days to just get there, right? And then you work for 4 days, and then you return and come back for 4 days. It's so far away, and like there's a point in the journey where the power poles, the power lines stop, and nobody's going to extend them beyond where they've stopped. The government's not going to do that. Maybe other NGOs might come in there and do that, but Light Up the World is certainly one that follows through on its promises in terms of what it's going to deliver, and then really supports communities once that delivery has been made. So as a volunteer, you go into the community and you work pretty hard to make sure that all of these classrooms are wired, and then it's also hooked up to this solar panel PV system so that they can turn on the lights. It's so crazy. You get there and you can't charge your phone, right? You're living without electricity, and you get used to it fairly quickly, but it's also really frustrating, and you know that it's very temporary, right? You're like going to the bathroom in the middle of the night because we're sleeping in a school while we're doing this, and you have a headlamp on, and you get used to it, right? but it's temporary. It's only a short period of time. But then on the last day when you turn on the lights, it's such a miracle. It's crazy. I did not understand how profound electricity is until I had that experience, which is another reason I wanted to have this role, is because I did see how profound electricity is, and how important it is for us in Canada to have tradespeople, healthy supply of tradespeople, which is what we're doing here in the electrical trades portfolio at SAIT, is ensuring there are enough tradespeople for the future in this country and beyond, but mostly in this country, in Alberta specifically. But on the last day in Peru, we were in this community called Warkaya, and I went for a walk with my peers, and I came back to the school, and the lights were on. And it just struck me like how profound electricity is because you, until you live without it and you have to function without it, you don't know how important it is. And people are truly in these communities living without it in pretty tough circumstances and conditions. And it changes their lives in significant ways to have access to electricity and to turn on the lights. So it's a really incredible experience. I actually just found out yesterday that I get to go again. And so I'm going in May with my colleague Shashi Prasad, who's an instructor here at SAIT, and he's the leader of this trip. He's one of my heroes. And he's invited me again to on this trip, and we're going to another community. I'd have to look up the name. It's in rural Peru. It's more like last time it was like a real mountain trip. We were high up in the Andes, and I believe this time it's more like a jungle trip. So, yeah, it's really exciting to be able to do that again.
That's amazing. And I wanted to ask too, did you get to connect with and meet members of the community? And if so, like what was that experience like in bringing them light? And yeah.
The students had more of a connection with the community, much more than I did. I was really focused on supporting the students. We had 9 students with us, eight students with us. And I was really focused on supporting them and their experience. And then I watched them make connections with the community members. Yeah, it's pretty significant. I mean, this time Shashi and I are going to look at connecting more with the community because we want to collect some qualitative data on what it means for them to actually have electricity in their community, specifically girls and women, which is obviously something that I care about from my own research and experiences in the past. My focus on feminine leadership. I'm really excited to collect some qualitative data on what this means specifically for girls and women.
Oh, I wish you all the best with that upcoming trip. It's so exciting to hear.
The trip is so hard. You have to be so
bet.
physically tough and
I bet.
mentally tough. You have to be very focused and resilient and careful what you wish for. I was very excited when I got the approval today, and then I remembered what it entails. It's really hard. You go without sleep, and the food's really good. They have Light Up the World has an amazing cook, Antonio, and so the food's really good. But yeah, you're sleeping on a hard ground and you work all day, and it's a really challenging experience. Also short term, right? It's a short term experience with a lot of value, but careful what you wish for. Because I was like this morning, I was like, oh yeah, but that trip's really hard, Heather. Like days of travel, and then you work all day long, and then days of travel. It's a hard experience.
This is not related, but when you said, you kind of you're excited and then you're like, I remember this is really hard. What it made me think of was having a baby.
Oh yes.
And we had our first and then we're going to have our second, and we're getting closer to the due date, and I'm like, oh yeah, right.
That's why I have one. I have a very good memory. That's why I have one child.
Yeah, I think I literally said to my husband, I can't do this again. And he's like, well,
Well, I feel like that's a very accurate analogy. Yeah.
Okay. That's where my head went. I was like, I remember that feeling. So not specifically your experience, but yes, my head went there. But I wish you all the best, and I can't wait to hear
it's gonna
about
be fun.
this
It's
next
also
adventure.
a load of fun because you're all together and you're in it together, and it's it's the most incredible teamwork experience I've ever had because you bond and you can't leave each other's side, like for many reasons, because of
Yes.
where you are, the proximity. There's not really anywhere to go. It's not like you can go to the mall or like the coffee shop. That does not exist. You can go for like a little hike, but you got to go together because it's unsafe to go alone. So
So you're
um,
together. You're
you're
together in
together.
all the
Yeah,
ways.
you're
Yeah.
flying together, you're busing together, you're vanning together, you're sleeping in the same proximity. Like it's it's intense,
A
but it's
lot of
worth. It
yeah.
feels good. It's fun. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So amazing. Such it sounds like such a powerful experience.
It is.
Now, just to kind of hop over in a different direction, because as I've been getting to know you, here and there at my own
Fun.
time at SAIT,
I'm fine getting to know you.
I had the chance to hear a presentation that you did that I absolutely loved. And you were chatting about using pop culture
Oh
metaphors like
yeah.
Star Wars in teaching, research, and life. And so, given sort of the thread of teaching and learning that I'm trying to weave in through our conversation, I really wanted to dive into this piece because it was just such a neat personal experience that I got to have with you in learning from you. So, what draws you to that strategy? And I'd love to hear a little bit more of how you bring that into your work or how you have brought it into your work.
Because I'm a nerd.
I am too. So,
No, I always loved a strong female lead like that, and it starts with Princess Leia. Like I was a little girl. I was born in, I'll tell you, 1978, and I
So
think
was
the first.
I, Heather. So was
Really?
I. We're same.
Great.
1978.
And I think Star Wars, correct me if I'm wrong, then it was 77. So
I think so.
yeah. So it's not like I went to go see it in the theater, but I'm from rural Saskatchewan, and so it played on television by the time I was a kid. So we watched it lots, and she just fascinated me. Oh, it's so funny. My daughter has recently got into the next round of Star Wars, like a lifelong, well, her lifelong, my lifelong for her dream to have her actually like Star Wars, and she's recently gotten into the latest episodes or installments with Rey and Kylo Ren.
Okay.
She loves Ray, but she doesn't like Princess Leia. She thinks she's
Oh.
rude. She
Oh
doesn't like her
no.
attitude. She finds her off-putting. But I loved Leia. And I loved her. Like I liked her. I liked the way she looked. Like I liked her outfits and her hair and the fact that she was also like, wielding some kind of, I don't know what those things were. A star. What are they called? Like a star. I'm not like I'm a Star Wars nerd, but I'm not like I don't know every single detail. The people that know every single universe and technical term. That's not me. But I do love that narrative. So I just loved her from like being a little girl. She looked so cool. She was so sassy. She was so tough. But she also had feminine qualities. She fell in love. She had a brother who she had to help through some emotional times. Luke was pretty, Luke needed a lot of support, but she would like yell at a Wookiee and then fall in love with Han Solo. So she had a heart, but she was also tough. I mean, Carrie Fisher played her extremely well, and Carrie Fisher was similar in her life. Like she was very tough and sassy and funny and smart, but also soft and caring and loving and a mom, a good mother. So I think those narratives and that story is just so. I mean, I think Lucas based it on the hero's journey and did a lot of research to structure the story so that it was the hero's journey is my belief. And so I think those stories are so like universal. Not that everyone likes Star Wars, but the path, the journey is so universal and common to the human experience that you can just easily use those stories to capture people's attention even more than your own story. Plus it's like a collective story, right? Like enough people now know Star Wars and they're interested in it and know the storyline that you can use it to communicate an idea to people. It's just more fun too than just talking about simple concepts as well. So I have just always loved Leia, and so using her as a metaphor in my research. I'm actually working on a journal article right now, and I'm continuing to use her as a metaphor in my writing and in my research, because I don't know if metaphors, I think it's more like an analogy than a metaphor, but she's just my ideal feminine hero. And she's complicated, and Carrie Fisher, who played her, is much complicated. I mean, she's gone now. Rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. But she had a complicated narrative too in her own life. Like, amazing actress, but like lots of problems with drugs and relationships and mental health. But a good mother, a caring person, a good friend. You know, she was friends with Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker and Han Solo for her whole life. She was 19 when she made the first film, and she was friends with those men up until her death. You know, she was a good person, a complicated person, and so she was a real person,
Hmm.
and and just like identifying with real people. And I know Princess Leia isn't a real person, but her story, I guess, is not real either. Obviously, it's science fiction, but I guess her narrative arc, especially if you follow her all the way through, like we do have like her whole journey from Princess Leia all the way up to General Organa. You know, when she was at the end of the Star Wars journey, by then she was a general in the Resistance, and she was no longer Princess Leia, but General Organa, which I like that narrative arc for women as well too, because we can go from being princesses to being generals. And her style was still like spot on. Like, her outfits are amazing as a general, and her hair is amazing as a general. So, you know, you can still be a girl and look good and be pretty, and you don't have to, of course, but you can still like be a general and an amazing feminine leader at the same time too. She softened. General Organa softened. She went from like tough, kind of snappy princess who yelled at a Wookiee to like a pretty like soft-hearted, caring general. Still got things done, but she softened with age, which I liked about that character too.
Mhm. And it is just so interesting, you know, bringing in something that you're passionate about and something that people can connect with in varying degrees, right? There's varying amounts of familiarity, or some people, as you said, knowing every single and all of the details, but as a way to connect people to your message and make things more relevant and
Mm.
make more sense to them. So I absolutely loved your presentation.
Oh,
It was one
thanks.
that stuck with me for sure. And I wanted to ask you about when you think back on your journey, so teaching and learning and being a
Mhm.
curious human has obviously been a big part of your path. Is there a favorite teacher that you've had,
Oh,
someone
yeah.
that really stood out for you? And I'm curious why that person means so much to you.
That's a great question. I've had really good teachers in my life, but I have a very first good teacher, and that's Mrs. Colleen Morgan. Oh, she was the best teacher. I've had many good teachers in my life, but she was my first really incredible teacher. And I was in grade 7, and I moved from Saskatchewan to Alberta, and she was from Nova Scotia, Antigonish, and she went to St. FX for her degree. And she was just a really incredible, inspiring English teacher. And I like books and stories. I like movies, books, and stories. And she was an amazing English teacher who taught me grammar and came to the classroom with such, she was like kind of tough. She wasn't like, if you made Colleen Morgan mad, like you would know about it. And I kind of like that about her too, because she kept us in line, but she inspired us to care about what we were doing. She's a wonderful teacher. I've told her many times since then. Like, I think the last time I contacted her was like when I started teaching about 10 years ago. I think I tracked her down and told her, updated her on my she was so young when she taught me. Like, she was, I don't know, she was in her late 20s, and she moved back to Nova Scotia. I know that. And all her she had children when she was my teacher. She started having children when she was my teacher, and I think all her children are grown now. They must be, because my child's grown, so her children are grown too. I've told her many times over the last like 35 years.
Oh,
She's an incredible teacher.
that warms my heart because I'm always so curious if people have let their favorite teachers know how much they appreciate them. And I actually relatively recently had coffee with my favorite teacher of all time, who was my grade 2 teacher, Mrs. Hogland,
Tell me
and it
about her.
was just the best. Like, she just made us it was like how she made us feel. Like, we all my brother, my sister, and I all had her, and anybody that I know and I'm still in touch with that had her, like, also just loved her. Like, we felt like she loved us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when I met and had coffee with her, the details and she remembered the story she had.
Yeah.
It was actually mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's like, "Oh, do you remember so and so? I remember when he threw his retainer in the garbage can, and then I had to call his parents to come after school, and we were digging through the like, she it was I yeah, we met for coffee, and it lasted 4 hours. So the
Oh,
next time we go out, we're having lunch."
wonderful.
Yeah. So I strongly encourage anyone who has that special person or people in their lives, like, taking the time to let them know and connecting with them in some way.
Well, this is
It's
me
just the
telling her
best.
again right now how
I
amazing
love
she was as a
that.
teacher. She loved
I
us
love
too.
that.
Her love was tough love, but
Yeah.
it felt like love.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it's all about. It's the best. It's the
Mhm.
best. Now, when you look back on your journey, I'm curious if there's something that you are the most proud of.
Oh, that's funny. My daughter. Because I'm a single mom. Her dad is a great guy and he's in her life and he was in her life when she was little, but I was her primary caregiver and I was a single mom from the time I was 25 until well now, but I don't really consider myself a single mom anymore. She lives in a different province. She's going to university. It sounds funny to say that, like I have 3 university degrees and I've done a lot of things that I'm proud of in my life in terms of travels and my own independence. I owned a home by myself. I've been an active employee for all of my adult life and I've done and achieved a lot of things in that time. But yeah, I think when you're a single mom, maybe people don't even do this anymore or ever, but I guess there's this like idea around being a single mom that there's like an inadequacy there and it was really hard and I feel very proud of how I did it, like very proud. And it's because she has just turned out so incredibly well. She is such a wonderful person and I know everyone really likes their children. Like, right? Like everyone likes their kids, right?
Most days, no, I do.
So
Yes.
wonderful. And I was so stressed out the whole time, like the whole time. If I could go back to the beginning, I
Hmm.
would do that all over again and not be as stressed out as I was because I was so scared it wasn't going to work out and it was all on me. I had to do it myself. I had to hold up the house by myself and I was so scared it was going to all come crashing down and it never did. And it turned out so well because she's just like a really wonderful person. She's in her 4th year at the University of Saskatchewan studying agriculture, and she really loves her area of study. She's very passionate about it, and she has a wonderful community around her, and she's a great person. She's just so energetic and built so much community around her. I'm just really proud of that because it was really hard. It was so hard. So yeah, like I think all of it's I'm proud of my life and but if I have like one I'm really proud of her. She's a great person and
That
I
is
did
so
not do it by myself. It does take a village, it really does. And I think when you're a single mom the village is even more profound because you need important is maybe a better word. The village is so important and so I had a great village around me and to this day she has like probably 20 adults like my sisters and her father's siblings and her grandparents. There's just like a real network community around her that supports her. So I did not do it by myself. Her father, of course, I mean, we're going to her banquet this weekend for her 4th year, and her father and I will both be there. He was an important part of all of that too in that community. So it does take a village. I didn't do it by myself, but it was hardest on me. It was the hardest on me. And I did it.
And you
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a great
Oh,
kid. Yeah.
that's so, so amazing. So exciting that you get to go and celebrate with her soon.
Yeah.
That'll
I'm
be
very
so
excited.
special.
Yeah.
Now, I always talk about how education plays such a big part, really, in everything we do. So, how we play, how we work, how we explore, how we build relationships. And I'm wondering if you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom to support people on their own teaching and learning journeys.
I think never stop. Like I'm taking a class right now. I'm taking an undergrad class at Athabasca because I really like the model. And I'm studying Introduction to Counseling. I was thinking about what would be next for me. I feel like you just never stop learning. I like formal education, clearly. I've made my career in formal education. At least the last 17 years of my career has been in formal education. But there are many ways to educate yourself, especially now. And yeah, I think just never stop. It never stops. It keeps you, it's harder. Like I've definitely noticed the difference now trying to learn this material versus, what it was like even 10 years ago in my master's. But you should never stop.
That is really good advice. And Heather, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me and have this conversation. If our listeners want to connect with you in some way, is there a best way to do that?
Yeah, I like LinkedIn. If someone is interested, they could send me a request on LinkedIn. I accept most requests on LinkedIn as long as you look legitimate because I like it as a platform to share stories. When I went to Peru, I shared the story of that journey on LinkedIn, and I'll probably do the same on our upcoming trip in May.
Okay, I'm glad because I loved following along. So I'm glad to hear that. I will share your LinkedIn profile link in the show notes. And I totally understand what you're saying. I accept most requests, but there are some where I think no.
Most,
Most, like
most,
most.
yeah.
Yes,
You
yes.
look like a real human being
You do.
acting out in the world. Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
probably link in. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Heather, thank you so much for joining me today. It was so lovely to connect with you and to learn from you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure, and it's fun to talk about these experiences because it is a windy road, and it's hard sometimes to be like, how did I get here? But when you follow the path and you have the opportunity to talk about the path like this, it kind of all starts to make sense. And you ask great questions. I like your questions. Yeah,
Thank you. I
very
appreciate
informative.
it. Thank you.